Google and 64 million bacteria-riddled mosquitoes. Here we go again. Good news in the California governor's race, although it will still be probably 4 or 5 years before we hear the results officially. Nowhere else on earth does this happen except California. And finally, the myth of the Doomsday Glacier. We're going to talk about that coming up. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. It's Friday. We're very happy about that. Oh, yeah, Friday's here, end of the work week for many, and glad you're along for the ride. Thank you for popping by. We are here Monday through Friday on YouTube and Rumble Live, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, which is just what's happened now. It's 9, and we're here, and we welcome you in. You might be listening to the show also on our podcast. We suck out the audio, clean it up a little bit, and then dump it up to all the podcast platforms. Apple iTunes, Spotify, all the platforms. You can find us everywhere. Just search out The Jay Sheldon Show, and you can listen to us in the car or wherever if it's easier for you to just listen to the show, that's okay. But we thank you for being here, and we're going to get right into it. Google, they want to release 64 million bacteria-riddled mosquitoes across California and Florida. Well, isn't that nice? And scientists, according to this article, are enthusiastic. Yeah, they have applied, Google has applied for an experimental mosquito release permit to deploy millions of non-biting southern house mosquitoes that it's infected with the bacterium Wolbachia pepientis. And they're trying to reduce the mosquito-borne diseases like West Nile virus. Google wants to release these 64 million mosquitoes in California and Florida, and scientists really have no concern about this at all. What? What could possibly go wrong? The EPA is right now, as we speak, reviewing an application made by the tech giant for an experimental mosquito release permit, which counterintuitively could reduce mosquito populations that carry disease. The release is part of Google's Debug initiative, which aims to deploy millions of non-biting male mosquitoes that have been infected with a bacterium called Wolbachia pepientis, it's also known as Wolbachia, into the environment. This bacterium apparently does not harm the infected males, but it does prevent any uninfected females they mate with from having little baby mosquitoes, which would, over time, they guess, slash the mosquito population. In this case, Google is targeting house mosquitoes, an invasive species native to tropical and subtropical regions that can very easily spread diseases like West Nile virus, St. Louis encephalitis in us humans. This proposal apparently has scientists buzzing with enthusiasm. They couldn't be happier. Karthikeyan Chandrasegaran, assistant professor, University of California, Riverside, studies the ecological and behavior of mosquitoes in the context of public health, told Live Science magazine that using Wolbachia is a reasonable mosquito control approach, particularly when compared to the use of broad insecticides. She says, Wolbachia-based strategies, general species-specific, and don't induce or introduce novel toxins into the environment. Wolbachia is already widespread in many insect species. It is a naturally occurring bacterial symbiont rather than a genetically engineered organism. And from that perspective, they're among the more environmentally conservative mosquito control tools that we currently have available. The EPA has deemed Google's request to be of potential regional and national significance, and it'll make a final decision whether to grant the permit after the public comment period ends June 5th, which is today. So it's your last chance. After this, the agency could very well, and let me tell you, will probably give Google the green light in order to release 32 million mosquitoes in California and another 32 million in Florida over 2 years. Now, despite the proposed releases, Google's approach isn't new. It's already been shown to work in other mosquito species. It's a technique that's been used actively to control mosquito populations since around 2011. The assistant professor at the University of Florida, Eric Caragata, studies Wolbachia for mosquito control. Mosquitoes have been identified as the deadliest animal on the planet. Yeah, that little annoying mosquito that's biting you, that is the deadliest animal on the planet, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Killing between 500,000 to more than 1 million people a year by spreading harmful diseases. Between 500,000 and 1 million people a year lose their lives to mosquito bites. That's insane. Using insecticides, of course, isn't good for the environment. It kills other pollinators, and increasingly mosquitoes are building up a resistance to them. There's an ongoing battle with both mosquito-borne disease and insecticide resistance, according to Caragata. Wolbachia offers a potential natural solution to these mosquito woes. The bacterium is common in insects, but it doesn't affect other animals, they say, like humans. A process called cytoplasmic incompatibility, the bacterium creates a unique interaction between infected males and uninfected females. In males, this bacteria modifies the sperm genome in a way that kills embryos that are produced by that sperm. But if a female also has Wolbachia and it's in the embryo, then the sperm genome impairment doesn't do any harm at all. It doesn't affect the offspring. That interaction means that if you release millions of infected males into a population, then the uninfected females will mate with them en masse and be able to produce young, viable young. Google is apparently building machines to autonomously rear millions of infected mosquitoes and then use AI algorithms, sensors, and other engineering to separate the males from the females. They've been using sterilized male mosquitoes to reduce populations for decades. Most of the previous bacteria-based attempts focused on Aedes mosquitoes, which carry diseases like Zika and dengue. We have dengue here. It's often quite bad. In Singapore, now I'm just above Singapore and Malaysia, so in fact, Singapore used to be a part of Malaysia. Google's also working. Researchers have been using the Wolbachia-infected males to fight dengue. They've found the approach reduces the disease-carrying mosquito population by up to 90%. And the subsequent risk of a person contracting dengue by 70%. But Google's large-scale targeting of southern house mosquitoes, this is something new. Upsides, downsides. Why is Google, Alphabet, their parent company, why are they getting involved in these kind of things? They're a search engine. They own YouTube. You got to branch out into this odd science of breeding infected mosquitoes? No, I'm not in favor of this at all. I do not trust Google as far as I could throw Google, which isn't very far. Sorry, you have proven yourself to be an absolute monopoly, monolith company that cares absolutely nothing for the human population. You couldn't possibly give a crap less. You've proven that time and time again. By the way, you want to knock me off of YouTube because I'm saying this? Go right ahead. Couldn't actually give a fat rat's ass less. Go right ahead. I don't care. You know, Google owns YouTube, so they're not going to like this. I don't care. I do not trust a company like Google to be popping 65 million infected male mosquitoes into the population. What could possibly go wrong? Unbelievable. Have you been following this Plattner crap? I haven't really covered it because I thought it was just some localized garbage, but man, this is getting out of hand. The latest Plattner Oppo drop is absolutely brutal, and it paints a very ugly pattern of abuse. If you don't know, from Graham Plattner's Nazi tattoo to his sexual predilections with the help of the Democratic Party, Plattner has been able to plaster over all these crater-sized moral and personal holes or blame them on somebody else. That's a favorite trick. So this latest New York Times Oppo, this drop may do absolutely nothing to steady his already filthy reputation and unbelievably bad record. However, they say it's not the crime, but the cover-up. And this is going to require a whole lot of plaster. In the New York Times article, 3 women who dated Plattner in the past point to his excessive drinking and abusive behavior. But this is from the Times. In extensive conversations over the past 2 months, 3 other women who'd been romantically involved with Mr. Plattner offered a far more complicated assessment, describing volatile and toxic relationships that were unsettling and at times emotionally wrenching. Mr. Plattner could be charming and charismatic, they recalled in interviews, but also demeaning to women and, in at least one case, even physically threatening. He drank heavily and was regularly unfaithful. Well, no surprise here. Plattner's talked about his issues with PTSD, caused him to drink heavily, and the prior Reddit drops reflected all of his views about the concept of fidelity. Look at how he talks about his brothers in arms with whom he served, after all. This is him writing. Lindsay Fifield, 40, a Virginia conservative who's worked for right-leaning groups and Republican campaigns, recalled him as a cavalierly contemptuous of women's emotions, of our weakness. Ms. Fifield, who dated Mr. Plattner from roughly 2013 to 2015, said that his offensive online posts reminded me of exactly how much he hated women. Jenny Rassicot, 41, Maine Democrat, said she dated him casually off and on between 2019 and 2021, said the posts deepened her belief that he had absolutely no respect for women. Quote, "When I saw the old comments that he made online, I recognized a version of him that I had experience with." Now, the third woman spoke to the New York Times on condition of anonymity. None of the accounts really are bombshells. The one problematic revelation from Fiefeld is buried in this long plodding piece. It's like 10 paragraphs. I'm not going to read all of them. Here's the important parts. But she said he regularly grabbed her by the shoulders, sometimes hard enough to leave marks, and on one occasion yanked her out of a cab by her wrist after an argument when she wanted to stay in the car. During one argument, she recalled, he twisted her arm behind her back, shoved her into a bedroom, and held the door closed from the other side so she couldn't get out, telling her to remain there until she was calm. Eventually, Ms. Fiefeld said she fell asleep and left the next morning. It hurt, she said, but she added, it didn't cause an injury and I didn't break my arm. Of course, Plattner is disputing these accounts. He says, Mr. Plattner strongly disputes any claim of physical intimidation or altercations. His campaign said the Times could not independently corroborate Ms. Fiefeld's account of the altercation. Now, I'm not sure whether Plattner's denials are going to be enough this time. Trust me, there will be more accounts. They're going to continue to dribble in. And lest we forget that it was a pileup of allegations that killed the career of former Congressman, California gubernatorial candidate Eric Swalwell. Remember that? Oh, yeah. However, there is very serious doubt that Maine voters, particularly Maine women voters, are going to want this guy representing them. June 9th, looming large. Plattner's polling advantage over incumbent Senator Susan Collins dropped from 10 points to 4 points, which is definitely a sign, and certainly it would seem a bit of a definitive one. So, there you go. This man is in a heap of crap, and it ain't looking very good for him. California voting. The only place on the planet, that cannot seem to count votes. At least not the way other, look, every Western country, Germany, the UK, whatever, Japan, every other Western country can count their votes basically in a night. They have election day, they count the votes when the polls close, and usually by 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, they've got some good idea. Certainly by the next morning, they've announced the winner. Unless you live in California, where literally, and we talked about this ad nauseum before, it can take months. It is going to be a bit until the races in California are settled. And why? Well, the answer is California. You'd have to say there's some exciting and encouraging news in what we've seen, how the numbers are shaping up right now. But because of the time they take to count their votes and verify signatures, months and months. I already told you the LA mayor, Karen Bass, the current leader, Spencer Pratt, appears to be a very, very close second. If those numbers hold, they'd be going to a runoff in November. And he is doing a lot better than the experts have predicted. A sign of just how much this campaign has captured people's attention. I have played for you a bunch of his campaign ads. They have been brilliant. And just how bad the Democrats have been for Los Angeles for years and years. Do not go to LA, folks. If you're wondering, please don't. You might not even get out alive, and I'm being serious. Also in the governor's race, Republican Steve Hilton, one of the top two right now in that race with Xavier Becerra, also leading Becerra right now 27.7 to 25.3. And if that holds, then Hilton will advance to the runoff. You can check the live daily reports. They're online in a number of different places. I usually look at redstate.com, which is a great place to get updated information. Hilton struck a chord by promising to cut costs in the rather overly expensive state. Democrat billionaire Tom Steyer's third, 19.6 at this point, followed by Republican Sheriff Chad Bianco. Everybody else, including the unbelievably dumb Eric Swalwell, remained on the ballot after dropping out over sexual assault allegations. Former Democrat Representative Katie Porter, well, she's back again, throwing mashed potatoes, no doubt. Cross your fingers, but at this point, it's looking pretty good. Not bad. We'll see. Patriot Mobile is one of our great sponsors here on this show. PatriotMobile.com/J. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and that's where you ought to be spending your money every single month.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever. Every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Oh yeah, PatriotMobile.com/J. J-A-Y, my first name. See, just like it says right there. PatriotMobile.com/J is the link, and that will get you unbelievable service, a U.S.-based customer support people who really, they're there to help you. They are there to put you in a plan that will save you money. They are not there to try and upsell you something you don't need. They are extremely helpful, great people over there at Patriot Mobile, and you're going to want to check them out. And please remember, the money you spend every month on your mobile service provider, you don't know where that money's going. Trust me, a lot of these companies are donating to the left, things you and I do not believe in any way, shape, or form. PatriotMobile.com/J. If you sign up using that link or use code J, J-A-Y, you will get your first month free, absolutely free. From Patriot Mobile, fantastic company. They believe in the same things you and I do. Check them out, PatriotMobile.com/J. All right, Governor Evers, here we go. Governor Evers has doubled down on forcing therapists to lie about sex and gender. You ready for this? This man is a complete nightmare. Wisconsin Democrat Governor Tony Evers doubling down on seemingly defying the United States Supreme Court ruling on so-called conversion therapy for children. That moment came during a pride flag raising event at the state capitol. While flanked by attendees waving rainbow flags, the left-wing governor bragged about vetoing bills passed by the Republican-controlled General Assembly that he claimed targeted so-called trans kids and harmed the health, safety, and security of LGBTQ Wisconsinites. In doing so, Evers went on to tout a June 2021 executive order he signed, which banned the use of state and federal funds for conversion therapy on our kids. The governor's admin also adopted a rule declaring it unprofessional conduct for a lot of state marriage and family therapy, professional counseling, social work, examining board licensees to provide therapy that tells the truth about sex and gender ideology. That regulation took effect last year following a favorable ruling from the Wisconsin liberal, very liberal Supreme Court. Now, in his remarks, Evers decried efforts that fight against his attempts to prohibit the practice and reaffirmed his intentions to maintain his admin's ban. I have no intention on repealing the ban on conversion therapy on kids, period, end of story, no questions, Evers said. The Democrat governor's comments appear to be in response to criticisms from the Wisconsin Institute for Life and Liberty and the Wisconsin Family Action Group. These two conservative groups sent joint letters to Evers on April 14th, contending the unconstitutional and unenforceable rule substantively mirrors a Colorado statute that the U.S. Supreme Court recently found to be unlawful. They demanded that in light of the court's decision, Evers and his team have to repeal the regulation. In Childs versus Salazar, SCOTUS ruled that Colorado's prohibition on therapists conducting gender-confused kids on getting out of trans ideology regulates speech based on viewpoint, and the lower courts erred by failing to apply sufficient rigorous First Amendment scrutinies. When we noticed that Evers' administration of this fact, we were met with a blatant refusal to follow the Supreme Court's holding, along with inflammatory, baseless rhetoric, according to accusing Will of bullying children and Wisconsinites. Will Deputy Counsel Rebecca Furdeck said in a statement at the time, however, Wisconsin counselors have every right to provide Christ-centered talk therapy to their clients who seek them out for that kind of counseling. That lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. So there you go, for what it is. Oh, here's another good one. We all remember this story. Prosecutors are saying there is no evidence against church protesters. In the Minnesota, you remember Minnesota and the thing with Don Lemon? Yeah, that. There's videotape, prosecutors. In case you forgot, it's all on videotape. And they say there's no evidence against the church protesters. You remember when anti-ICE protesters stormed this Minnesota church back in January? That group included former pretend CNN journalist, now left-wing advocate Don Lemon. You probably thought to yourself, this is a crime. The agitators should be charged. Of course. Well, if you did assume that, then you are a lot more logical, apparently, than the St. Paul's City Attorney's Office, which said in a statement, they are not going to take action because, unbelievably, quote, the current evidence is insufficient to meet the standard for criminal charges under Minnesota state statutes. This, despite the whole thing being on videotape and multiple eyewitnesses on the scene. No evidence? Really? As we've seen time and time again, there seemingly is no standard for criminal charges in the Gopher State. This is an absolute joke. Outrageous. Dozens of anti-ICE protesters will not face charges after storming city's church in St. Paul because there's no evidence. Please. At least 39 people still face civil rights charges on this federal level. That includes Don Lemon. That's a good thing. Lemon claims he was there as a journalist, not an activist. Well, Donnie boy, the DOJ thinks otherwise. Earlier this month, Lemon live-streamed left-wing agitators storming St. Paul City's church under the suspicion that its pastor had collaborated with ICE. Lemon told viewers that the freedom to protest is what the First Amendment is all about. But the Justice Department officials have been working to hold these participants accountable, as well they should. Former Attorney General Pam Bondi wrote on X, "At my direction early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Tahern Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamal Lydell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attacks on City Church in St. Paul." Here is Don Lemon fleeing the church.
This guy here, look, he's hugging his kid. And, you know, I imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful, it's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here, but that's what really, careful, please, really slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about. And so.
That's what protesting is about. Okay, Donnie boy. The invaders claim they disrupted the service because one of the church's pastors worked for ICE, which was conducting Operations Metro Surge in the Twin Cities at the time. And guess what? That's a federal crime. But, according to St. Paul prosecutors, apparently, it's just not a big deal. Walls continues to completely outdo himself, protecting criminals, illegal aliens, and now church protesters. We can only hope the DOJ will do Minnesota's job for them. And one day, Mr. Lemon will be wearing a nice orange jumpsuit. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. All right. That is a spectacular cup of coffee, and it is from the most amazing coffee company on the planet, Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee, it's all done in-house, premium grade specialty coffee beans. Their specialty coffees grown at the right altitude, the right time of year, the best soil, harvested at just the right time. They only roast your beans after you place your order and then ship them out within 24 to 48 hours from cup, roast to cup, nothing in between. They have flavored coffees. They've got cold brew. They've got instant, all kinds of amazing flavors over there. And also don't forget, they contribute their coffees to our troops overseas in active war zones. They send them cups of coffee, and you are contributing just by making a purchase over there with Blackout Coffee. Use the link down there in our description. You can pull that down. A link will come up for Blackout Coffee. Use that link, and if you're a first-time customer, use the code J20, JAY20, and that will get you 20% off your first order. They've always got specials going on for different holidays. Sometimes just out of the blue, you'll see some amazing deals over there. And don't forget also their coffee subscriptions, which are fantastic. Great way. You can cancel or pause anytime. You can change the roast you pick if you want. That's fine. And it's a great way to keep you always stocked and never run out of this amazing coffee. Always full-flavored, full-bodied coffee that really hits home and never, ever bitter. John Santos and the gang at Blackout Coffee do a spectacular job over there. And thank you, John, for being part of the show. We really, really do appreciate that. All right. More bad news for our flora and fauna. Wyoming's golden eagles, which are an absolutely beautiful bird. Not as majestic as a bald eagle, but damn close. And right now, Wyoming's golden eagles are facing an extinction risk. You know from what? Wind farms. Yeah. Oh yeah, there is a picture of that absolutely beautiful bird. Look at that. Amazing. Well, you can file this one under unintended but entirely foreseeable consequences. In Wyoming, a group that monitors the population of eagles and other raptors is screaming a very loud warning right now. The Cowboy State's population of golden eagles is crashing, having dropped by 1/3. Holy crap. And that group, the Teton Raptor Center, thinks they know why. Wyoming's golden eagles are in trouble and need the protection of the Endangered Species Act. That things are going badly for the eagles is no secret, but the Wyoming authorities are completely ignoring this growing threat. Incredibly, golden eagle numbers in Wyoming have declined by nearly 1/3 over the past 20 years, according to the Teton Raptor Center Conservative Director Brian Bedrosian. This precipitous population drop, clearly very serious, it has got to be stopped. Wyoming, America's golden eagle population center. And so what happens there potentially affects every one of us. Now, a bit of a qualifier. This refers only to the population in Wyoming. The golden eagle is a circumpolar species found in the northern hemisphere of North America, Asia, parts of Europe. This is still, however, a matter of concern, especially when you know the reason why these eagles in Wyoming are declining. Here is their special warning with respect to wind power development. Oh yeah, here we go again. Wyoming is home to the largest breeding population of golden eagles in the lower 48 states, provides critical habitat for wintering and migrating individuals. The state contains some of the most valuable areas for long-term conservation in the western U.S. Completely inadequate protections in a golden eagle stronghold experiencing high growth in wind development risks. The project area has become a population sink, also known as an ecological trap, an area that golden eagles are strongly attracted to, where they experience very high mortality, leading to continuous population-level declines. Year-round breeding eagles experience mortalities. Floater eagles are likely to be the ones that fill vacancies, which themselves also face the same fate. A downward population spiral becomes very possible. And these dire, dire warnings have been basically completely ignored by the relevant authorities, and so it is time to call in the Endangered Species Act. Absolutely, indeed. These wind farms kill an untold number of birds. The big soaring raptors like eagles and some of the big hawks are particularly at risk. The very open, windy environments these wind farms are put up in great hunting grounds for the big birds. and their long, broad wings, which are made for soaring, very vulnerable to strikes by these huge windmill blades. Unless an eagle lives through the strike or found by a rehab group, a broken wing is basically a death sentence. One of the prices birds pay for flight is light, fragile, hollow bones, and once a wing is broken, it almost never heals. And untold means literally that. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, strangely reluctant to release the numbers, but in Wyoming, home to the United States' biggest population of these incredible, magnificent birds, it is growing alarming. And remember, all this for an electricity source that is at best intermittent, although we have to admit, rather less intermittent in Wyoming than a lot of other places. Low energy density, unreliable, expensive, comes at a very high environmental cost, much more than the green energy advocates would ever admit. So, where are the environmental lobbyists now? Yeah. Other than the Teton Raptor Center, or arguably an environmental group, although a rather focused one, they've all been very strangely silent. Not a peep. The state of Wyoming seems rather unwilling to take on the problem. Endangered Species Act, since its inception, has never been fairly or evenly applied. But in this case, we would seem to have an issue that the Environmental Safety Act was actually intended to address. So the question is, why aren't we using it? We are losing these magnificent, amazing birds. That sounds like some sort of a lefty environmentalist argument. It's not. This is a very, very real problem, which, strangely enough, the lefty environmentalist group, not a word. Not a word. Danny, good morning. Got the last 20 minutes. Been busy with the kids, but good morning to you. Hey, nice to have you along. Thank you for popping in on a Friday. Hope the kids and the family are all doing well. How about the myth of the Doomsday Glacier? Have you heard this one? Oh, yeah. The press, which loves to do this, they live for this kind of bullshit. They are ramping up the scare factor, pushing the claim that Antarctica's Thwaites Glacier, which is also known as the Doomsday Glacier, great name, huh, is on the brink of collapse and going to flood all of the world's coasts. This is biggie. Ooh. That claim, by the way, is 100% bullshit. It's been false since 1989, when a UN official told the AP that entire nations could be wiped off the face of the earth by raising sea levels if the global warming trend isn't reversed by the year 2000. Let me just check. I'm still here. Yes, the glacier is retreating. Yes, scientists are studying it very intensively. But retreating is not the same as collapsing, okay? And collapse is not an indication of some imminent global catastrophe, which is what the corporate media bullshit artists would have you believe. The leap from measured ice loss to headlines, predictably coastal doom, driven by more modeling scenarios and dramatic language that actually don't observe any of the real data. The Thwaites Glacier contains somewhere around 600,000 gigatons of ice. That's a lot of ice. News reports very often highlight the projected loss measured in the hundreds of gigatons and present those figures as if they signaled some looming collapse. They do not. Even 200 gigatons of loss over decades represents a tiny fraction of the total glacier's mass. Context matters, and it is entirely omitted in these crap climate scare stories. But they've got to have something that grabs your attention and gets clicks, so you can bet your bippy they're going to do it. Now, the underlying science is a lot more nuanced than the headlines suggest. The International Thwaites Glacier Collaboration deployed instruments beneath the floating ice shelf and directly measured relatively warm circumpolar deep water introducing under the glacier. The subsurface ocean water, roughly 1 degree Celsius above freezing, melts the ice from below. This is an ocean circulation issue. It is not primarily an atmospheric warming story, okay? That distinction, sadly, is rarely made clear. Ocean-driven basal melting has been part of the Antarctic's dynamic system for millennia. Ice shelves thin, retreat, grounding lines migrate. These processes are all influenced by ocean currents, salinity, wind patterns, bedrock topography. They're complex, they're regionally viable and variable, and they don't operate on cable TV news timelines, strangely enough. Observed thinning and retreat are real, but projecting full structural collapse within a year or even a few decades requires climate model extrapolation beyond what's being directly reserved. The difference between continued retreat and irreversible disintegration, enormous, and often blurred in media coverage. Sea level rise, gradual. Tide gauge satellite altimetry data shows global sea levels rising millimeters per year. Do you know how big a millimeter is? It's about that big, maybe less. Not meters, per decade, which they would have you believe, the scaremongers. Even under higher end projections, significant contributions from Antarctica would unfold over many decades, if not centuries. Now, none of this means that Thwaites should be ignored. It's an important glacier. It's in a very sensitive marine setting. We have to keep an eye on it. But scientific caution should not be replaced by tabloid-level certainty, because none of it is certain, and they are just lying to you and trying to scare you, and all they want is your clicks. Antarctica's glaciers absolutely deserve to be monitored, scientifically studied. They do not deserve to be turned into some tabloid-style seasonal scare stories. However, that is exactly what they're doing. So now you know, the next time you read or see one of these headlines, don't even bother. Scroll past it. They are lying. They're trying to scare you. Oh, man. Let's just do this before we wrap it up. I love this. It's a Friday. It's been a long week, so I thought probably the best way to celebrate the week would be a little moment of calm, serenity, and just basically not giving a crap. And here it is. What a sweetheart. That from Okinawa, Labrador. And that little Labby just enjoying life. Not a care in the world. Which I hope is exactly what you find with your weekend. Thanks so much, folks, for popping by. I really do appreciate that. If you don't mind, just take a second, hit the subscribe or follow button. It's free. It helps the algorithm find us, and we really do appreciate that. If you'd like to donate, keep the show on the road and free, and keep the lights on in this place, there is a PayPal link just down below in our description. Also, all of our great sponsors, of course, Blackout Coffee, Patriot Mobile, Ground News, NordVPN, they're all there. Go buy something and use those links. The show will benefit from it. We appreciate that. Danny, I just love dogs. I want to scrunch his little jowls. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to go give Miko a big hug because she deserves it. You enjoy your weekend, spend it with someone you love, and I will see you right back here at 9 a.m. Monday, live on YouTube and Rumble for the Jay Sheldon Show.